And I said, you know what? I'm going to just pull the damn plug on this, even though it's going to be very painful, because it's a really easy money, to get a whole bunch of friends of yours to mail your stuff all the time and share the money with them. But I said, screw it. I'm going to get good at turning advertising into profit, because I think that really is the only long-term solution.
You hear all the bull about marketing every day. Make your money in your sleep. My new offer is crushing it. My guru could beat up your guru. It's time to go right to the source and get the truth about marketing. With your host, the founder of copychief.com, Kevin Rogers.
Hey, welcome back to The Truth About Marketing. It's Kevin Rogers here. My guest today is Frank Kern, man who really does need no introduction in this business, but I'll give him one anyway. He is one of the most well-known, well-respected, and financially well-endowed marketers walking this blue marble. The man works hard for his money. He started his direct response journey back in 1999. Well-respected copywriter. He's a relentless tester, and I think a masterful reinventor of his own personal brand and his suite of products. Perhaps best known for his breakthrough course called Mass Control. But Frank is always out there, always promoting cool stuff, and very open teacher of all this great knowledge that he's accrued over the years. So Frank, really appreciate you making time and rapping with us today.
Thanks, man. That sounded really cool. Just keep saying that stuff, and I'll nod.
Just put that on a loop. It could be your ringer, your ringtone.
Yeah, I can stand behind you like Flavor Flav and just be like, yeah, like that, I think. And then that could become my contribution.
That would be cool. I like that. Yeah. So Macon, Georgia, yeah? Born in Macon, Georgia?
Born in Macon, Georgia, and moved to Marathon, Florida for a little while. When my mother and father divorced, she went down there and married a boat mechanic, and then came back to Macon, Georgia when I was a little bit older. So pretty much Macon, Georgia,
something in the water there, dude. I've been to Macon, but Little Richard, the Allman Brothers, Otis Redding.
We claim James Brown too. I mean, technically he's Augusta, but we're claiming him.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you can't. That's like this. That's not normal. And then Frank Kern, right? I mean, you're definitely cooler than most Georgia guys. And not putting Georgia down, but I know a lot of cats from Georgia. They don't usually become surfers and wear that so well, right?
It's hard to do down there, considering the absence of waves. Because they have a significant disadvantage. So I think we should cut them some slack.
Yeah. That's fair enough. I mean, Cocoa Beach isn't that far away, or St. Augustine. But what are your vivid memories growing up there in Macon? What do you recall?
Man, I remember working, dude. It was I had a real good time coming up, really. But I lived with my mother and stepfather. I have no brothers or sisters. I'm the fourth Frank Kern. We were all only children. And my mother is and was just as weird as they come. And she would not shy away from that description. So this is by no means disrespectful to her. And she is and was involved in what some would refer to as a cult. I don't think it's really a cult, but it's this thing called Siddha Yoga, which is an Eastern Indian quasi-religious, well, I mean, it's definitely spiritual, but I don't think they call themselves a church or anything. But, she's got an actual guru and stuff. So I grew up in Macon, Georgia, no brothers and sisters. I wasn't particularly popular as a kid. And every Wednesday, my mother would have all of these middle-aged white people come over to our house, and they would put red dots on their head, and they would chant ancient Sanskrit songs and play these Eastern Indian instruments and stuff and meditate. So that really helped me become even less popular, really, in my neighborhood with people. So I remember kind of having to fend for myself a lot, I've spent a lot of time in the woods, and I spent a lot of time with my dog. But it was fun. I had a good time, man. So, I remember being in the woods and being hot and listening to very strange sounds coming from upstairs every Wednesday.
Wow. And did you look back on your life as a young man and see any entrepreneurial spark?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I had to start working when I was in fifth grade, not through any financial hardship or anything, but my parents had a boat marina. So after school, my job was to pump gas there and to run the concession stand. So that started when I was whatever age fifth grade is. And then I had to always had jobs from there. So as soon as I was old enough to actually get a non-family job, I started bagging groceries, and then I was a desk clerk at a hotel. And this is during high school. So I'd go to high school till 3, and then I go be the desk clerk at the Best Western Regency Inn in Macon, Georgia, right off Eisenhower Parkway. Come on down and see us. And I'd work there till 11:30, and I hated having a job. So I always wanted to actually work for myself. And my grandfather, who was really my primary father figure. My father was extremely cool, but also was a real bad alcoholic, a friendly, fun type of alcoholic, but wasn't really particularly good in the traditional sense of parenting, but the non-traditional sense, he was awesome. So I learned a lot from my grandfather, who was a self-made multimillionaire. And so he became, by the time I was old enough to be slightly more sober, like maybe 19 or so, he became my mentor. Like officially, I asked him to. I was like, would you please teach me how to not be the pizza guy anymore? Because I had failed out of college and was, it was your typical story of abject failure after failure, kicked out of school and bad grades, black sheep of the family, and drug habit, and roofer and house painter, and, just constantly trying all these dead end things and very irresponsible. And I asked him, just point blank, I was like, will you please help me basically get my shit together? And he was like, yeah, I will. And his doing that was to essentially become like a Marine Corps drill sergeant and kick my ass all the time. But it worked pretty good.
Wow, that's great. Do you think that is like the factor, just that want to, right? I had the same moment with my uncle, and I always laugh because he was sure I was coming to him for money, right? and he was a similar successful businessman in the family, and I asked for a meeting with him, and we sat down, and he quickly launched into how he wasn't about to hand me a check, and it's not at all what I wanted. I just wanted to know the secret to success, kind of like you asked your grandfather. And so now I'm sure so many people have come to you over the years saying, Frank, you got to help me. What's the thing? I can't seem to get there. Is that it, man? Like, if you could name one thing, is it like you just got to really want to? You got to go out of your own way to find who might know the answer to this riddle and ask it.
I agree with that. And I would tell them exactly what he told me, which is you got to want to, and you got to quit bullshitting yourself because everything's a choice. It's funny. I was having this conversation with my friend and client, Brooke Castillo. She was over here 2 days ago, as a matter of fact. It was a really good visit. She went from 300 grand and 2 years ago, and now she's at 3 million. So I'm real proud of her. Great. And we were talking about that, like what keeps people from actually doing this stuff. And I believe it's because they don't really want it, and they bullshit themselves with these excuses, such as, well, it's too hard, or I don't have time. And in reality, you definitely have time. You're making a conscious decision to spend the time elsewhere. And you might even have a perfectly rational reason why you should spend the time elsewhere. Like, well, my kid's got a baseball game. I can't miss the baseball game. Well, maybe, but in reality, what you're doing is you're putting that baseball game over you're placing that at a higher priority to getting the job done. And that's neither right nor wrong, but it is what it is. And when you get very crystal clear about that and just stop accepting lies from your brain and start using that accurate thinking principle, which is, do I really not have time? Is this really overwhelming? Or can I just go on YouTube and look up a tutorial on how to do this? Then things become very, not easier, but at least the truth about the situation, know. So I 100% agree with you. I think when people say they want it, they're playing a lot of lip service, Right. It's kind of like Ronnie Coleman says, everybody won't be a bodybuilder, but don't nobody want to lift these heavy ass weights.
That's the truth. That's great. I love it. All right, so here I got a quick fan question, if you don't mind. You a chicken and shrimp lover?
Yes, I am a chicken and shrimp lover, by God, especially when I'm in Celebration, Florida.
Nice. All right, that was easy. All right, so this will be fun. I'm going to name 3 attributes, and you tell me the one that if they're taken away, Frank Kern has a very different life. All right?
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I usually don't ask questions like this, but I thought this was fun. Here they are, 3 attributes. Empathy, showmanship, and salesmanship.
So am I supposed to pick one that would like have the most devastating effect if I lost it?
Yeah.
Jeez, man. Gosh, that is tough. I'm on the spot, and I guess I'd like to reserve the right to what's the word? Not resolve the answer, but whatever, change the answer later if necessary.
Okay, fair enough.
But at this phase, I think I would have to say salesmanship. And the reason I'm having a hard time with that is because I think empathy is tied to salesmanship.
Yeah,
so I don't think you can really do it without empathy. But, from a practical level, I would have to say salesmanship, because sometimes you don't have to have empathy. If a dude wants a horse and you can say, here's a horse and here's why the horse is really good, you're doing pretty good. You don't necessarily have to have empathy,
right.
You have to have empathy when you need to get someone to turn the corner, so to speak. So,
good point.
Yeah. But I would hate to lose all of those. I think showmanship is the least important for me personally. I'm pretty boring now. I used to do all that kind of stuff, but now I don't really mess with it.
When you look back on, thanks for answering that. I know that wasn't a really easy question, but that's a really important and interesting distinction, by the way, between salesmanship and empathy. I hadn't thought of it like that, but you're right. There are sales that don't involve the need for empathy, for sure. It's like my buddy Carlton says, if you come into the emergency room with your hand dangling by the skin, you don't need the surgeon to say, "Oh man, I've done that before. I almost cut my hand." Like, just show me that you know how to fix this damn thing, right?
Exactly right.
But when you look back, so now I would say you've outgrown the need for showmanship, but obviously there's been an evolution over your career. And I'm not saying it was just showmanship that got you where you were, but you certainly were, you're a big celebrity in the business, right? Not to make it weird, but certainly I don't think anybody else in our industry had the level of recognizability that you did. Why do you feel now like you don't have this desire or need to keep that up?
Because I can turn ads into money. So what I did, I made a conscious decision to do that. And that sounds cheesy, really. So I recognize that sounds stupid, but I can tell you exactly when that happened. So I had a little business selling dog training stuff using Google AdWords, and it worked very, very well. And it got up to about $1 million a year or something in revenue. I didn't get to keep all that because I had a pretty high overhead from advertising. And then I helped Neil Strauss launch a dating product called The Game. Not The Game, I'm sorry. He wrote a book called The Game. The dating product was called Annihilation Method. And it was very expensive, and I helped him do that. And he didn't know me from Adam. I just, for some reason, against his better judgment, he agreed to let my cousin and I help him do this project and split the money. And it worked out really well. And then I helped Andy Jenkins and Brad Fallon launch their StomperNet program, which was at the time, I'm sure it's been beaten now, but it was at the time the largest launch, I guess, for lack of a better word, in the history of our industry, which was huge. And when I did that, I began to be kind of confident in my ability to teach other people how to do stuff, because I had done it in a market that was unrelated to marketing, which was the dog training business, and I did it through advertising. And then I had done it in a market which was unrelated to marketing, which was dating, which I had no clue about. I was in a marriage that was bad at the time. It ultimately ended, and I was never good with girls anyway. So here I am writing email copy for this dating guru, and I have no clue what I'm saying, and he's reading the copy going, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard." So he's changing it, and resisting the urge to murder me. And then I did it for Andy, and I was on a plane going from San Diego to Atlanta, because the StomperNet dudes had asked me to stay on post-launch for a retainer to sort of advise them on what to do. And I wrote out the plan on the damn airplane, and I wrote down that I wanted to be the Rolling Stones of internet marketing. And I made the decision to turn myself into a celebrity in that market. And I don't regret it, I guess, but I think that it would have been a better decision just to have been significantly better at marketing, and spend all of that energy getting better at marketing and delivering better results for the people that turn to me for advice. But that was all deliberate, and I don't really, it was crazy.
That's fascinating. I actually would have not thought that that was. I almost would had this thing in my mind where it's almost like a viral video where you can't really manufacture that.
No, it was 100% on purpose. Now, I will say that the image that I portrayed was real, so it was not a persona. Back then, I really did live at the beach. I surfed every day. A lot of people asked me if I dyed my hair, which I always thought was funny, which I did not. Not that there's anything wrong with that or whatever. But I was like, really? Why would I do that? But whatever. I drank constantly. I pretty much tried to actually live like the Big Lebowski. And but when I made those videos, and that's really what created the celebrity, was the movie quality of the videos, right, and the imagery and the marketing videos. That was all very, very deliberate. There was one where I was playing a lap. It's not a lap steel, but it's kind of this electric lap slide guitar that Carlton gave me, and I gave my video guy a copy of The Last Waltz by the band, and I said, I want this video to have that feel like the viewer is watching something iconic and important. And when we made the Mysterious Stranger video, which is probably one of my more, I guess, famous videos, for lack of a better word, that was a marketing video. It's where I'm driving around the bus, my Volkswagen bus, talking about what if this mysterious stranger gave you a house and stuff. I had him watch this Black Crowes documentary where they used a certain burn effect on the film to make it look like vintage stuff. And I deliberately chose that Volkswagen van to have my audience have that subliminal nostalgia and anchoring back to, times when everything was really good, like the good old days, because my audience was a little older than me at the time, and deliberately chose the beach as a backdrop because of the symbolism there. So all of that was heavily thought through,
Yeah.
But you know what? I got to tell you, I really don't think I would have I don't think it got me better results than if I'd have just sat down and written a damn very good sales letter.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm not sure if it did any good other than making a lot of people know who I was, which doesn't really pay the bills.
Yeah. How many visits to a website can you get for the price of a VW bus, right? And maintenance.
Yeah.
But, well, man, yeah, it's interesting because, when I put it out to my community that we would have this interview, one of the questions that I thought was an interesting one from Peter Michaels, he said, if you woke up tomorrow and the name Frank Kern suddenly meant nothing to anyone, the brand was somehow wiped clean, but you still had to promote the services you sell today, what would you do to begin selling your current offers, without the brand history, like you're saying? Can you answer that?
Oh, shit. Yeah, I can answer it because I wake up every day thinking that I operate as if that is the case already. So we spend not an exorbitant amount. I like to spend more, but we advertise to complete strangers constantly.
Yeah.
So the thing that happened for me, and the best thing that ever happened to me, is when we were all like, me and all of my friends would promote each other's stuff through launches. I became weak at marketing in the sense that I no longer knew how to sell our type of stuff through advertising. And that bothered me. So right around 2011 or 2012, I just quit doing it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to just pull the damn plug on this, even though it's going to be very painful because it's a really easy money, to get a whole bunch of friends of yours to mail your stuff all the time and share the money with them. But I said, screw it. I'm going to get good at turning advertising into profit because I think that really is the only long-term solution. And I deliberately went out and started cultivating people who do not know me. So every single day, I'm getting buyers from people who've never seen me before because we're running media constantly, So I'm doing the same old stuff that's always worked in mail order and online, sell someone a very inexpensive book and then offer them something else and then offer them something else. And hopefully you do a good enough job and deliver enough value, they'll want to keep buying from you. So I don't fear that whatsoever. It would be a temporary inconvenience, obviously, if I didn't have my mailing list or whatever, but I have no concern over that.
Very cool. Yeah, that's great. Is that is kind of the makeover, so to speak, part of that rebirth?
Sort of, but that was kind of accidental to a degree. So a lot of things happened, I started my career in direct response as a reaction to facing constant rejection as a door-to-door salesman. So I was like, if I could just get rich quick on the internet without having to work for the man, everything will be cool. And because of that, I started selling business opportunity stuff. And I was, one of those dudes that sold stupid crap. And I got sued by the Federal Trade Commission as a result of that. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Don't want it to happen again, though. But I'm grateful for the experience, And so that occurred. And then I started selling the dog-related stuff. And I started selling the dog-related stuff because I just wanted to survive. My business had been wiped out. I was very afraid. It was scary to get sued by the United States government. I didn't even know they existed before they sued me. I'm like, oh my gosh, not only do these guys exist, but they're very upset with me. So that was very unpleasant. And then when I did that mass control era, which would be, I guess, from 2008 till 2011, that was largely, and it's embarrassing for me to tell you this, but it was largely me wanting to prove to these unreal, non-existent judges that I was worthy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to show them that I really can be something, but there was actually no them. You know what I mean? It was all in my mind, but that was really the reason I did all of that. And when I decided to turn myself into a marketing celebrity, I had that identity in my mind, and that's how I behaved. I made a lot of stupid decisions. I used a lot of drugs. I drank a lot. My family life was in ruins. So really, what people refer to as the makeover, which is I cut my hair, and stopped swearing on stage and stopped drinking, bourbon while giving presentations and stuff, was really the result of me just getting older. I'm 44 years old. I met my wife, Natalia, and immediately had a complete change of self-identity. I was no longer concerned with being a celebrity of any kind. I wanted to be a provider and a protector and an example for my children. And, I wanted to really do good instead of just wanting to make a lot of money and party and have fun and entertain people. And because of that, I just started to behave differently. So that wasn't particularly conscious in the sense that, well, I'm going to cut my hair this way and all of that kind of thing. And because of all that, I started to develop, I guess because I started deliberately attracting people who advertised and real business people, I developed a profound respect and admiration for my customers. So when I present myself differently now, number one, I'm older, right? I'm a father of 4. I don't do as much stupid stuff anymore, so I want to set a good example for them. But also it is a deliberate sign of respect for the audience. So that's why I do it. So it wasn't necessarily conscious in terms of, okay, I'm going to remanufacture this public image, and all this. I just was like, you know what? I don't care about this shit anymore. I'm an ad man. I'm proud to be one, and I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm cutting my hair off because sometimes if you're 44 years old and you got 4 kids and got long hair, you start looking like Vince Neil from Motley Crue, and there's nothing wrong with him, but I don't necessarily want to look like that.
That's not the poster you had as a kid.
Yeah.
That's great, man. And so 4 kids, if they, this is a dumb question. You asked this to an actor or somebody, but how important is it for you to understand how business and entrepreneurialism works in regards to having choices in life? Is that something you're conscious of as a parent?
It is it's something I obsess over. So for me, it is as important to me as it would be for an evangelical born-again Christian to know that their children knew the Word of God.
Wow.
Yep.
Love it. And so what kind of things, when is it too young? Like, do you give them things, like you don't say, all right, this is marketing and this is how this works, or you kind of put them through almost like, unannounced challenges so that it'll awaken that spirit inside of them?
No, although that's a pretty good idea. I've got a bit of a challenge in that two of my children that live with me full time are very young. They're 2, and my son turns 5 tomorrow. So
Great.
They're not quite. Well, my son might be ready to start talking about this kind of stuff. And then my daughters I see every couple weeks, and I only have them part time. So I don't get to have the level of influence on them that I would like. But I do spend a considerable amount of time just talking to them about their choices, because the environment they live in is very different than the environment they live in when they're with me, which is the minority of the time. Mm-hmm. So we're in this giant house. I mean, not to sound like an asshole, but we've got 2 Rolls Royces here. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they come over here and it's like, oh, and all of this kind of stuff. And I always am saying, listen, we build this and you can do this. And here's exactly how you do it. And so I'll show them like the day's sales, and I'll say, here's how we did this, and I want you to understand. And then they'll tell me things they learned in school, and I'll say, well, that's one perspective, but you got to understand that, you can also do this, this, and this. And like my daughters, one of them was really interested into I can't remember, one of the Kardashian girls, the younger one who has the lipstick. Mm-hmm. So I started explaining to her, let me show you, how she's getting rich doing this. Right. And so I do it, but I don't make a game out of it necessarily. Right. I try to talk to them like they're grown and we're just having conversations, because that's how my grandfather talked to me. Mm-hmm. But it was a little harsher, and I'm glad it was. I needed it. They don't, thankfully. Mm-hmm. But so I do the best I can with it, and we'll see if it pays off. I mean, truthfully, I don't care what they do as long as they're happy. Right. They could be gas station attendants, whatever. Yeah. School teachers, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Somebody once told me, you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. Right? And I thought, that's the truest thing I've ever heard. Yeah.
Man, that's so heavy, Kevin.
I know, bro. Sorry.
Think about that, man. I'm freaked out. Jeez.
I'll be waking up at 4 a.m. Thanks, Roger.
I already wake up at 4. Now I got 4 of them. Come on. I got teenage girls.
Well, they're happy now, so you're doing great.
Yeah. They're happy now. That's good.
All right. Let's get to the big essential question of this podcast, and I'm excited to hear your answer. So, Frank Kern, what is the one thing you've done in your marketing that produced the most surprising results?
Dude, I love this question, and I gave it a considerable amount of thought. And the one big thing was making the deliberate choice to speak to my audience and my prospects in a very upfront and blunt manner, and being very, very upfront with them about all of the, I guess you could say, the negatives involved with what they were considering purchasing. And I got the idea from watching that damn Dudley Moore movie. I think it was called Crazy People. Oh, yeah. Where he was the ad man who just said all he did was now just tell the blatant, ugly truth about everything. Right. So when I started, deliberately saying, listen, don't buy this if you're expecting to make money overnight. It's actually extremely difficult. And saying things like trying to be successful in business is like trying to be a championship boxer. You are definitely going to get punched in the face. If you can't stand getting punched in the face, don't get in the ring, and things like that. It worked like really, really well, which was awesome, So that really blew my freaking mind. It's a great way to sell, Yeah. I mean, who knows? I could maybe convert more if I did your traditional stuff, but I don't want that kind of customer, Right. So
I love that that's your answer, because it's one of the questions I kind of didn't get to, but that is something I remember distinctly the first time I saw. And what I love, you do that, and what I love is you don't bury that. That is not the third PS. It is often the opening line, or it's on a landing page, right? Was that a progressive thing where it's like, did it begin almost as like a disclaimer? Like you said, you mentioned you had, legal dealings. did it come from that? And then you're like, oh, this is actually resonating. People appreciate this. And then it became more prominent, or?
No, it became prominent when I really can't remember, actually. I wish I had a smart answer for that. I started doing it probably around 2011 or 2012 when I was looking at the customer base I was attracting, and I was complaining about them. Not all of them, but, we only, at least me, I shouldn't generalize about everybody, but I'll let like 3 bad customers overshadow 100 awesome ones.
Sure.
Right? So I was trying to teach higher level stuff, and I'm trying to teach it to past customers, and I'm getting like, I don't want to do this. Where's the magic bullet, whatever, 2000 system.biz that's going to get me rich. So I remember something Dan Kennedy said, which was, hey, don't complain about your customers. You're the one that went out and got them. Go out and get other ones. So I started doing that because I play this game very long, so I want someone who's going to do business with me forever. And I know that if they'll do what I tell them, they'll probably get the results, and therefore they'll probably do business with me forever. So I kind of use that as a filter. I don't care so much about the first sale. You know what I mean? I'm willing to take a lower conversion rate on the front end in order to get someone whose lifetime value is going to be much higher.
Right, absolutely. And how long does it take if somebody's sitting there now going, I love that idea, but I'm trapped in having to keep up with the immediate sale, right? What's a fair amount of time to decide lifetime customer value?
Well, if someone's trapped in that, probably that's going to be, and this is a generalization, but I was trapped in it, right? So what happened to me was I decided to go very high end and to be very blunt and straightforward and only work with the absolute perfect people. But because I was so high end, the immediate sale, one immediate sale of that counted as like 10 immediate sales from something else. So it sort of evened out. You know what I mean? So when I started making that decision, I was selling things for $10,000 and $15,000, and it was a very heavy takeaway type sale, and it worked really, really well. And I was no longer dependent on having to push so hard. So I would say this to really any market that's challenged would be to raise prices and profits significantly and go after the highest caliber customer you can, because they'll pay it and you can spend the extra time servicing them and you'll have plenty of profits,
Right.
And an affluent buyer, typically speaking, and I know I'm generalizing a lot in the conversation, so take it for what it's worth, but an affluent buyer is typically going to be much more responsive and appreciative to a straightforward, type of thing. Like I had to do a speech the other day, which I never do really, and I was speaking on stage to a real estate group. I don't know why the hell I agreed to do this. As a friend of mine and one of our inner circle members asked me to do it, so I did. And I don't know a damn thing about how their business works. And I got up there and stood right in front of them and said, I got good news and bad news for you. The bad news is I have no clue how your business works whatsoever. And the good news is I'm not going to bullshit you about it. And I bet if you and I do some work together right now while I'm here, we can figure out a way to make it more efficient through some reverse engineering processes. And we did. And they wanted to buy stuff, So it's pretty straightforward. I think we just sort of we copy stuff we see and we think it's the only way, but it's not,
Yeah, for sure. Does imposter syndrome rear its ugly head when you jump up, higher levels and start charging more?
It didn't for me, but I didn't start charging more until I'd been doing this for a long time.
Right.
So, no.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
It's 100% true what you say. That I always tell people I work with a lot of freelance copywriters, and I say, look, when you earn your way to charging what you're really worth, and then you stop being too scared to name your price, this amazing world's going to open up to you where everything gets easier, because people, when they're paying you good money, they trust you, right? It's a big part of what they're paying for is they want to trust you and believe that you know what the hell you're doing and that your stuff's going to work. So you don't get all this pressure and all this pushback. That's probably one of the greatest secrets of this industry, right? Is that the more you charge, the easier things get. But the big caveat there is you've got to earn it.
Yeah, you got to be good at what you do. But, if you're not, you shouldn't be in business anyway. So
yeah, shouldn't be charging anything. Right.
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
right.
everyone listens to this is probably pretty good at what they do. And, typically you're going to be a lot better than the client. So regardless, you know what I mean? As long as you can do it. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have when we start doing client work, which I really don't do anymore, I just publish a newsletter now, is we expect the client to behave as if our expertise is their first language, like it is our first language. Mm-hmm. And it's really their 10th language, so we'll overwhelm them with stuff thinking, of course, they're going to understand this and make so much perfect sense. And meanwhile, they're like, okay, what? Okay, an autoresponder is, well, we wouldn't usually work with a client like that, but I think you get what I mean,
Right.
And, that took me a long time to figure out, which was there's nothing. Their clients aren't dumb. I don't mean it like that at all. It's just this is not their first language. Their first language is the stuff they do. And we got to really break things down for them in a framework and be patient. And it's fun. But again, I don't really do much one-on-one or anything like that now.
Mm-hmm. Great. Awesome. And last question, Frank, is it how big's your team now? It still feels like it's small.
Yeah, it is pretty small. I do have a real office, though, and it's right next door to the sheriff's department or the police station. I can't remember if sheriffs or police, but I'm 2 doors down from them in Carmel Valley. And so it's me. It's like one of those glass, all glass professional buildings and stuff. And there's a bunch of IP lawyers and financial people. And then there's us, and then there's the cops. So it's just significantly different than what it used to be. And I've got a CEO who runs everything, and I've got 2 salespeople, and they're all inbound sales. We don't do any of the cold calling or outbound or anything like that. And I have 2 customer service folks, and these are all literally in-house.
Oh,
so
cool.
I don't think there's anything wrong with outsourcing, but I just like to go down there and see what the hell's going on. I would prefer to really stay on top of it. I don't mind spending the extra money. I've got a video person who's freelance, who's worked with me for 10 years. And then I outsource my advertising management. Tom Breeze does my YouTubes and my YouTube media, and Dominate Web Media does my Facebook. So I think that's about it. And Vision Tech Team does my tech stuff.
Very cool. So you're not cranking Southern Harmony, the musical companion, and shoeless like you used to in the office.
Well, I work from home, so I never go to I go once every other week because I do live video conferences for our members. And that's the only reason I'll ever go down there. And it's not because I don't work and I don't want to not be around the team, but I just won't get anything done.
Right.
I know that, I fuel the business by doing 2 things, which is marketing the membership and then serving the members. So I stay here in my home office, which is like a big library in this house that we have. And I create content for our members, and I come up with promotions to get new members, and that's it,
Yeah. And you don't do you still doing the State of Unions?
I haven't done one since 2012. I keep saying I'm going to do another one, but I just haven't. Yeah. I really should. I have a lot to say. I've just been very busy,
Right.
Ever since we started this, the membership that I've got, I've really fallen in love with it, and I've become obsessed with just giving these guys all the stuff that I can. So they take up a lot of bandwidth in a good way. Like if I want them to take the bandwidth, I'm happy to give it to them.
Right. And so if somebody's listening and they want to try to discover this membership, is there a place they go? Or?
Embarrassingly, no, there's not. So the only way to get it is to find an ad for my consulting book, buy the consulting book, and then you'll eventually be in a funnel for the membership, which of course is dumb, but
no, it's actually, I think it's smart. It is, that's kind of very Dan Kennedy too, right? It's like you have to be indoctrinated into who I am and how I work before you can access the kingdom, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and it's just numbers. I don't really talk much about this publicly, but I'm a very analytical and intense numbers person. Mm-hmm. So from the ad perspective, my front end book funnel, earns about a 19% ROI on the front end in 30 days before the funnel starts selling membership. So every member acquired is acquired at zero cost. Actually, I'm at a profit before I acquire them. So that's sort of why I built that funnel that way. And but I still probably should have something for clever answers like this, like go to franksmembership.com. I haven't done it, so I don't know, find something. Maybe go to my website and opt in, or either write us, support at Frank Kern Help Desk or something.
It should be. You should just have a physical address only, right? It's P.O. Box, 101. Pueblo.
Give them next door
Colorado.
To the police station, across from the movie theater in Carmel Valley.
Yeah, I often go for tacos at 4 p.m. on Wednesdays. Yeah, that's great. Well, it only makes it that much cooler that you made time to talk with us today. So, Frank, I really do appreciate it. It's been fun and enlightening, as I knew it would be.
Well, and anyone listening to this, I mean, it never ceases to amaze me that someone actually wants to hear what I have to say. So thank you for taking the time to listen to it. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it'll be well received, I'm sure. I appreciate it, bro. Let's do it again.
Okay, anytime. Thanks.
Hey, thanks again for listening to the Truth About Marketing podcast. If you like this show and you think other people would like this show, the best way to spread the word is by reviewing and rating the show in iTunes. Just log in, click review, leave a big old fat 5-star review, and let everybody know that you dig the show so that they can dig it too. To get all the links and resources we mentioned on today's episode, please go to copychief.com/TAM, as in Truth About Marketing. And if you'd like to learn more about how you can improve your sales copy with templates, formulas, coaching, feedback, or hiring a pro, do all that on the inside of the members area of copychief.com, and I will look for you there. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.